That's how you put his AK. Oh.
Oh yeah,
Shut your bitch ass up, Troy.
the Holy Isle.
Shut your bitch ass up. Trey's a beast, don't tell me what to do, nigga.
Hello, I am TheTwelvie, and for the past 2 years, I have been creating a little FNAF fan game series called Evening at Aggo's. Now, all of this transpired on January 26, 2022. It was around, I'd say, October, November, December, one of those 3 months. I picked up development on the very first Evening at Aggo's game. After, I was going through a pretty big FNAF hyperfixation, and so were every other member of the Discord friend group I've been in for ages. So, I decided, well, when I was younger, I used to make these shitty little FNAF fan games. What if I went back to that now and put in a little bit more effort? Sort of to recap the whole year of in-jokes that we've created. And so I did that. I got to work developing the first Evening at Aggo's game. And eventually on the 26th of January, it finally came out. Now, let me be frank in saying, the first Evening at Aggo's game is not good at all. It takes you like a total of 6 minutes to complete. At launch, half the characters didn't work. I also cut a lot of the characters, so I eventually went back to it just a little bit before I began development on the second game to completely redo some characters and remove just a lot of unused assets that I was never going to be bothered to fix in the first place. So while the game itself was not good, I had nothing but amazing memories developing it. Just making all these little twisted, fucked up versions of ourselves out of PNGs I stole off Google search. All the in-jokes. It was a very fun time, on launch day, watching everyone play it as well. I did eventually release it on Game Jolt on a completely different account to the one I have now, because I literally just got the password for it and I cannot be bothered to find it again. And it didn't even properly release on Game Jolt. I didn't know that websites like Turbo Warp Packager existed yet, so I didn't know how to turn Scratch projects to HTML. So Evening at Aggo's was way before I developed a quote-unquote art style for the game. I literally just took PNGs of what our personas were based off of loosely and just put them in as characters as is, with slight alterations for the jump scares. I don't know, I thought that one image of that moving eye was really creepy, so I just gave it to every fucking character. There was a lot of cut content in the first game. Notably, 2 characters ended up getting completely removed because at the time I did not know how to properly code in their mechanic, and I was kicking myself that I couldn't do it, so I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna give up and not do it anymore. You might also notice a lot of these characters never reappeared in another Evening at Aggo's game, and that is because since the people who were behind these personas have departed ways one way or another with Aggo. So I just end up replacing them every year with different people. And now I think as of late I've got a consistent roster for the remainder of the series. I'd say that Evening at Aggo's 1 probably has the most in-jokes out of all the games. It's also the most Discord themed. That's what I wanted to go for initially with Evening at Aggo's 1. Be very Discord themed, like the menus, the tutorial in particular just being a Discord channel as well. That theme was kind of abandoned in the 2 other games that I've made so far, and I should probably bring it back because that's I don't know, just the original basis of the game, I guess. Although now other FNAF fan game projects like Ultimate Discord Night exists, and they're just infinitely better than this shitty little Scratch fan game. So maybe it's best that the Discord theme has slowly dissolved and it's got a little bit more of its own identity, while still being based off my friend group and its in-jokes. Now, Evening at Aggo's 2. Probably the fondest memories for me during development. This one was very hyped up. Yeah, I went, at the time, I went absolutely all out with this game. Gameplay-wise, it is probably the most boring game in the series. Yeah, most hyped, and it ended up being my least favorite in the series. I'll tell you why. It's purely just because of the gameplay. It feels like there's just too many like reused mechanics. Like you know, me and Piss and Vinegar both have meter mechanics that function the exact same way. Probably because I ran out of ideas, I'm assuming. I did sort of want to lean into a roguelike aspect of Evening at Aggo's too. You can see this in like the gong coin and the points tally as you get the end of each night. I wanted to encourage people to like go buy from the shops in order to like have better runs to beat the hard mode more efficiently. The hard mode's like barely any harder than the actual night, by the way. I did also add achievements, but they serve their little purpose, give you a tiny little bit of replayability. Most of them you get by just beating the game normally, except for beating hard mode, that's like a little bit beyond. There were the different items based off of other people in the friend group as well. The whole thing being themed around like Gongcha, which is like this little chain of like tea like restaurants that are like prevalent throughout our, like my country, and eventually it just became sort of an in-joke at one point in the group, and it was popular enough at the time that I like just wanted to include it one way or another. And then the actual UI of the shop menu itself is like themed around like the Steam store. That's a stylistic choice, like, you know, I think was pretty cool. A bit of a step up from the Discord sort of theming that Evening at Aggo's used to have during the first game. There was originally a cancelled build of Evening at Aggo's 2 called Evening at Aggo's 2 Gongcha. It was my attempt at making like a sort of like point and click horror game in the vein of like The Mimic on Roblox. I was gonna actually like try to make my own designs. I only ever made one, which was for myself, which not the worst thing I've ever made, but I could definitely make something better if I put more than 10 minutes into it. But yeah, that build ended up being too ambitious for me to make, so I stepped it back, and then one day around October 2022, I got the idea for just making a traditional FNAF 4 styled Evening at Aggo's fan game. So I did that, and it came out in November. It ended up being released on Game Jolt alongside a reworked version of the first Evening at Aggo's. I actually figured out how to use the HTML converter on Turbo Warp Packager. So I ended up doing that, and the first two games released on Game Jolt. The second game, still to this date, is the most popular thing I've put out on Game Jolt like ever, which under normal circumstances I would be very proud of, but it's my least favorite in the series. I don't get how people liked it, and I haven't heard like much in the way of criticism for it, which is like not good, because I think this game needs to be criticized because it's like not particularly great. I still had like very good memories developing it. This was like the most fun I've had making a FNAF fan game like ever. Just adding all these little different mechanics and stuff, it made me feel like I was making like something like pretty big, something good for scratch. But knowing me by today's standards and like by other standards I've seen across like my years of like doing FNAF stuff, I've definitely noticed there is 100% definitely better games than Evening at Aggo's 2. And like pretty anything I make is always going to be one-upped by something, and that's just the way it is. That's the way anything is. Like anything you do is going to be one-upped by something. But what matters is that I just had an absolute blast making this game and watching everyone play it. And so for a while, Evening at Aggo's 2 was the last game in the original duology of quote-unquote unremastered stuff. I say unremastered stuff because I am planning, like, it's not really a big secret. I am planning on redoing Aggo's 2 at one point because I've already done the remake of Aggo's 1. But yeah, speaking of Aggo's 1 remake, let's get into Evening at Aggo's Plus is the most recent game in the Evening at Aggo's series. Originally, it just started off as a remaster of Evening at Aggo's. I was going to update the gameplay a little bit, update the visuals, and perhaps add some more nights, a custom night, and some other bonus content. Eventually, though, the project got much more larger in scale, so eventually I was like, fuck it. Let's just make it a full-on remake. And so I did make it a full-on remake. This, I wouldn't say it's the least favourite of my development time, but it certainly did take the longest. It could have easily been done in a matter of a month, perhaps, but I don't know, burnout kept getting me whenever I got like too heavily invested in the development. So it ended up starting development in March 2023 and finished this month on September 11th. And yes, the whole reason it came out on September 11th is an actual elaborate 9/11 in-joke. I'm going to fucking hell. Now, even more originally, Evening at Aggo's Plus stemmed from a attempt at Evening at Aggo's 3. I got about a week into development of Evening at Aggo's 3, made like a grand total of 3 assets in SFM, until eventually I got inspiration for Evening at Aggo's Plus, which came from the recent announcement at the time of Metroid Prime Remastered, one of my favourite games ever. So I was like, well, I'm not particularly happy with the quality that Evening at Aggo's 1 was left in, so what if I try to rectify it by remaking it completely? At the time though, it was going to be just a simple remaster. There are still traces of the original game's code left in, because originally I just copy and pasted the files and I was going to like rewrite over them as originally discussed. So a lot of the file size is attributed to a lot of the unused bits of code left over from Evening at Aggo's 1 original edition. But overall, what do I think of Evening at Aggo's Plus now that's out and I've fully developed it? I definitely think it's the best game in the series. I don't know if that's saying a lot. For me, this was a massively ambitious game to make. I've never made anything on this scale. I ended up actually exceeding the file size for the SB3 file when I went to convert it, and thus it was getting corrupted in the Turbo Warp packages due to the sheer size of it. I can see why. There are a shit ton of assets in the Evening at Aggo's library of assets. Considering the quality of the game compared to other things I've seen come out of Scratch FNAF Fangames, I'm a little bit taken aback as to how my fucking project of all projects got too big for Scratch to handle, but it is what it is. I ended up getting out most of what I wanted to get out. Unfortunately, I had to cut a lot of what I wanted to do because of those file size restrictions, there was originally going to be a shop that would feature my friends Altaku and DJ Dizzity as the shopkeepers, much like how they appeared in the second game as the exact same characters. I was originally going to add like a cut content like throughout the year scene where I would show off cut content from all the Evening at Aggro's games, even the ones that didn't get released, like the elusive third game, which I will probably show off the cut content for one day. But overall, I am still, as of writing this, very proud of Evening at Aggro's Plus. It's only been about a week since its release, but I'm still pretty happy with it. Got a lot of very cool support from people who've played it, and I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much for paying attention to my shitty little FNAF fan game. Evening at Aggro's Plus definitely had the biggest roster in the series, featuring some returning and one new character who had originally been intended to be in the very first game, but I never got around to adding them because I just got burnt out of developing. So now I've got the complete Aggro roster, which is hopefully not subject to change anytime soon. Maybe people will be added, I don't know, but I'm very confident at the moment in saying that no one's gonna be removed. So that's good at least. So that concludes, this little Evening at Aggro series retrospective. I feel like I had more to say. Oh, there's that. It appears that this is not the end of Evening at Aggro's Plus, and that something big is yet to come.